He's Jalen Rose.
What
I'm
up,
David
Jeff?
Jacoby. We are Jalen Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We give the people what they want.
In the wake of the national unrest that has swept the globe in the past few days, you've seen a lot of corporations, a lot of companies, a lot of brands, and a lot of teams put out just statements about how they feel in their support of the fight for equality amongst humans. Well, the Knicks did not put out a statement, but James Dolan wrote an internal memo that was leaked, and here's what it said. Quote, as companies in the business of sports and entertainment, however, we are not any more qualified than anyone else to offer our opinion on social matters. What's important is how we operate. Our companies are committed to upholding our values, which include creating a respectful workplace for all, and that will never change. What we say to each other matters. How we treat each other matters, and that's what will get us through this difficult time. Jalen, what do you think about the fact that he wrote an internal memo about the lack of a public statement?
If this seems like suppression and or a bully tactic to those that work for you and or under your tutelage, it is. But I hate to remind everybody, it's not just Madison Square Garden or the Knicks that have this overtone about their corporation and business. A lot of them, if not many of, not most of them do. It's just that he put it in the memo. For most others, it's just understood. Same premise. He doesn't want people to comment on social issues. You can name whatever business that you want. Anything you post on IG, Twitter, Facebook, you have to be accountable for it as it relates to your employer. That's why I always talk to young people about using social media to your benefit, not your detriment.
What's wild to me is he acts like there's some sort of lack of expertise. Like we haven't studied this enough. We're not experts on this, so we're not qualified to offer our opinion. But that's the thing is, it doesn't take expertise to watch the video of George Floyd die underneath the knee of a police officer to look at that and just viscerally say, you know what? That's bad. That was wrong. We as a company, me as an individual, us as a collective, we are against this murder. Murder is pretty binary. Like you're either for it or against it. And it really seems to me that there's no level of expertise, there's no qualification, there's no degree that you need to get in anything to come out and just say murder is bad. What happened in Minneapolis, the death of George Floyd, was wrong, and we stand against that. Like, how hard is that, Jalen?
The brutality of criminals with badges and guns have been going on for as long as Black and brown people have been in the United States of America, Jacoby. And you're talking about the same James Dolan who used security and forces to have Charles Oakley removed from the building. You talking about that guy? The same one that denied entry to Spike Lee? Okay, so again, this could be an easy topic to make him a punching bag, but I will say this: don't act like in corporate America, the majority of companies don't feel this way. They just don't print it in a company letter like he did.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the incidents because this is not sort of the only thing that he has done. Now, I do want to point out that he has hired a lot of African-American for prominent positions, especially in the New York Knicks. But you remember this, that he told fans to root for the Nets. The altercation with Charles Oakley, banning a fan from MSG for speaking up about him, the public feud with Spike Lee in that video. Like he's a habitual line stepper. And my question for you is, as someone who has played in the NBA, how do you feel if you are a member of the Knicks? How do you feel if you are a free agent considering the Knicks? How do you feel if you are a draft prospect about to get picked by the Knicks?
So you have to be able to separate the two, Jacoby, because we've made accusations and held accountable a lot of different prominent people for teams. It doesn't mean that they still don't have great players in uniform because that's their job. So I don't think with the shakeup that they've done in the front office, I think they've actually improved their position and their basketball decision making. So therefore, if people will consider coming to New York City, I still, after all of this, believe the Knicks are going to be a viable option and will be landing somebody that's a game changer.
I do love the hire of Leon Rose. You know what I mean? I like the involvement of Steve Stout, but it just seems like anytime the Knicks start to gain a little bit of momentum, just to start to sort of like repair the reputation that they have in the world amongst NBA fans, they take 2 steps back every time they take 1 step forward. And this is just so tone deaf. Read the room, James Dolan. Read the room. Do you know how this
what
got
helped
out?
the Knicks? Let me tell you what helped the Knicks.
What's going
My
to help the
Puma
Knicks?
brothers, Knox and RJ Barrett Ball. That's what helped the Knicks. Their last 2 lottery picks.
Well, they've got a lottery pick coming, and I hope it is LaMelo Ball. And I just want to ask one serious question: is this obviously is not enough? I mean, this is clearly his decision, and this is within his rights to do. But is there any chance that James Dolan violates these little things enough time where the NBA starts to sort of challenge his ownership?
No. When we speak about storied brands, of course we're going to talk about the Lakers and the Yankees and the Celtics. Actually, the Knicks are worth more.
I know.
How about that? And with 2 championships that they won 40 plus years ago, the real estate in New York City, along with the power of the brands that play in that building, and his father owned the team. And because of nepotism, it's now his, Jacoby. He's not going to be a Donald Sterling. He's not going to be forced to sell the team. I know there are a lot of people that's like, sell the team. And if I had to pay to watch them play, I would feel the exact same way over the past X amount of years. But not going to be able to do it.
Why would you sell the team when the value increases it the way it does? You look at the Forbes list, the most valuable franchise. Not only are they at the top of the NBA, they're at the top of the NBA, and the gap keeps growing every single year. The value of that franchise grows and grows and grows. He is literally failing his way up the value of the franchise. It is depressing. And sort of like the way that he is so blind about this, and the fact that he can't speak out against what was clearly a brutal murder in the streets by a police officer in broad daylight on video. It reminded me of a story sort of like about my son that happened over the weekend that I wanted to share with you, Jalen, and get your opinion on this. He is your nephew as well. He, there were 2 remote controls, one for the TV, one for the cable. And he wanted to watch TV. He's a kid. He's 6 years old, right? And I turned on the television, and I couldn't change the channel because I didn't have the cable remote. So he was watching the news. And what he saw was the George Floyd video. And as he watched George Floyd underneath the knee of the police officer, and as he saw the police officer there, he just started to tears well up in his eyes. And I saw his lower lip quiver, and he goes, "Daddy, what is happening to that man under the car? What is happening to that man under the car?" And if you think about it like that, he has a black mother and a white father. He is biracial, and he understands that there are different races, but he obviously doesn't understand the complexity of the history of that in this country. And he doesn't understand sort of how polarizing it is right now and the tension that's happening right now. All he is a blank piece of paper, an innocent young boy looking at this image, and he can immediately decipher what is right and what is wrong. And I think about that when I look at James Dolan. Like, can you not just immediately decipher what is right and wrong? Can you not just speak out against this act, something that is so blatant that a 6-year-old boy can compute it and understand it into what is right and what is wrong?
I appreciate you sharing that story because, information is valuable, and youngsters lose their innocence so very early with television, radio, and social media, because I know that was something that you would have hoped to gently explain to him and show him and guide him through, versus like just throwing him in the pool literally and him just seeing it. And so I admire how you handled that and how his outlook was so innocent. It reminds me that hate is taught. And just think about this. He now, as a young man, gets to have idols in the United States that look like me, yet a father that looks like you, and a mother that looks like his. So we are making progress, and we're inching towards it. And I just want to encourage people, as somebody that's 47 years old, I saw a lot of progress happen, knowing that we have a long way to go. And that story just inspires me to acknowledge that, the marathon continues, as the late, great Nipsey Hussle would say.
And it's also just a clear demonstration that hate is taught. Hate is not something that you are born with. Hate is taught. It is not something that is born within you. When we come back, we might have Major League Baseball sooner than we thought it might happen this season. We'll give you the details. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. The bat has returned. That must mean it's time to keep it moving. If you want to discuss the topic, you say hit the brakes. If not, we will keep it moving. First up, MLB is close to getting a deal done for a 50-game regular season. Jalen wants to hit the brakes. Do you think this is a good deal for both the players and the teams, a 50-game regular season?
I think it's going to be a good deal if they're able to play baseball, especially publicly, how it sounded like these sides were so very far apart, and they understand the magnitude of what baseball will mean to help heal the country, but also just the damage it would do to the sport if they did not play. The question mark I would have is, unlike the NBA, Jacoby, I think Major League Baseball's champion will get an asterisk. They're going to play a third of the season. They're gonna play a third of the season and then go to the playoffs. Not really many teams make the playoffs and then have a World Series champion.
That's a good point. I do feel like this would have a much bigger asterisk on it than any other league if they only played 50 games. Moving on, Deshaun Jackson wants players mic'd up if there are no fans.
I do
keep
too.
Moving or hit the brakes.
Get healthy soon, D. Jax. Keep it moving for now.
We keep it moving. We keep it moving.
Aaron Donald bought himself an exorbitant birthday present.
The brakes. You know how we feel about our birthdays, Jacoby.
The chain. Look at the chain that Aaron Donald bought himself. I gotta say something though. Soft move buying yourself a birthday present. Like, you don't gotta buy yourself something. I don't buy myself a birthday present.
You ain't been rich long enough. When you start realizing you're spending all your money on everybody else, and then you look down at your phone and all they do is complaining about what you ain't doing for them when you ain't doing it. It's like Chris Rock said in Dead Presidents. If I could be where everybody wanted me to be when everybody wanted me to be there, I'd be confused. Happy birthday, Aaron Donald. Got to get some security to walk around with that thing.
Happy birthday, Mr. Donald.
For sure. He fighting knives.
If I did have your money, I would buy myself a birthday present as well. Next up, some new information about my number one prospect in this year's draft, LaMelo Ball. I love LaMelo Ball so much, and finally the rest of the world is starting to catch up. The Cleveland Plain Dealer is reporting that if the Cavaliers have the number one pick in the draft, they would use it on LaMelo Ball. Jalen, what do you think about making LaMelo Ball a risky pick, even though I have him as the number one, your number one pick in the draft?
Shout out to Dan Gilbert, who's dealt with some health issues, a supporter of JRLA. Here's what I'll say. If the Cavs get the number one pick again, there'll be some upset teams in the league.
That's a great point.
That's a great point. You get it with LeBron, you get it with Bennett, you get it with Kyrie, and then now you get it with LaMelo. There'll be some upset squads in the league.
That's a really good point. Finally, we have an update on the very strange diet of Conor McGregor. Keep moving or hit the brakes.
We got to hit the brakes on this one.
So, Jalen, I think this is definitely cultural. Let's just take a look at what McGregor has been eating. What you see there are dead bees. Dead bees.
Really?
Jalen, why in the world would you ever eat dead bees?
I don't understand why you eat dead bees. Is that where do you buy that at? I don't even understand. Where are those sold?
They did say they were seasoned with like fruits and like Caribbean pepper. I was like, oh, maybe that'll work. Like, you know what? That does sound kind of.
What's one of the strangest things you'll eat?
Some teams want 30 teams in the NBA bubble. We'll discuss why.
Chitlins.
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, every day it seems more intimate that the NBA will return. It's just a matter of how. And we have reports from our guys, Lowe and Woj, that some small market teams are trying to campaign for a 30-team start, every team in the bubble. Now, we did the research. Those teams sound like Charlotte, Cleveland, Detroit, Minnesota, San Antonio, Sacramento, Portland, teams like that that are now outside the playoffs looking to go to the bubble. Why would they want to do that, Jalen?
See, beyond the small market portion of this, all situations aren't created equal. If I have a young star that hasn't played in the playoffs, like Devin Booker or Trae Young, I want to play any basketball I can. If I have championship grizzled vets like the Golden State Warriors or the Nets, this season can't end fast enough. If you're Charlotte, you want your team to be playing just for relevancy and branding. And also, MJ got show his face after the last dance. We'll just be looking at MJ sitting on the sideline.
He just wants to ride the wave.
Right?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, Jalen Rose. Before we go, of course, we want to recognize the passing of NBA legend Unseld, and of course, condolences to his family. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock on ESPN. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We always put exclusive content on our podcast. Dan Le Batard and Highly Questionable is next.
Wes
Right after
Unseld.